Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC, and we're going to be doing inside the coverage again, myself and EA, each week, that is. In this case, this will be considered like a preseason edition. We want to provide a primer on the Jesse Minter defense, some of the things that we like in examination, and some of the things that we've seen so far, in particular the stadium practice at University of Maryland. How you doing this morning?
Doing good, Coach. Looking forward to it, man. Thanks for having me back. And take me a while to get my feet back into this thing, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, the format that we've used before is alternating plays. And, of course, in a given week, we'll be talking about the same game. In this case, we picked film or plays from Jesse Minter's time with the Chargers. And we've got three different games I think that we're going to talk about, or three different coverage snaps from three different games, that is. But in a given week, it would all be comprised of the same film. Are you still as excited about the hire of Minter and then Weaver as well on the defensive side as you were when those things were first announced?
Yeah, at least as excited. I think we've got somebody who's a teacher. And that's a big difference to me. At least it's really evident that he's a teacher. Not that the other guys weren't coaching up and teaching these kinds of things. But I think we're going to see massive improvement in terms of preparation, on individual preparation from each of our players because of that.
Agreed. The execution of it is there on film at the NFL level from across multiple seasons, whether that was Michigan or the Chargers. For me, I'm excited about the totality of the defense, but really it's the D-line that, for me, the depth of what's there, the variation in talent and what they do well. I mean, even omitting Matabike's return, which I know he has not participated in drills yet, to my knowledge at least. You do have Calais Campbell, Trey Hendrickson, and Zion Young added to the defensive line from last year. In addition, they drafted, I think it was Benny, from Michigan. So I like the D-line group and what they have up front as far as trying to execute things. The moving pieces, well, the whole defense is a moving piece for Minter, really. He does a great job of obfuscation, very similar to McDonald. Obviously, there's some unique similarities between those three structures or three locations. The Chargers, Derwin James. The Seahawks, Nick Manwari, and then the Ravens with our X factor, the guy who can move around, obviously, Kyle Hamilton. What's the position group that you're most excited to see, or maybe have some reservations about, or some consternations, I guess?
I like the idea of the depth that you mentioned on the defensive line. That's for sure. I think that's going to be a tough gig to land for some of the young players, Peebles and whatnot. I like Peebles. I'd like to think that this approach that Minter takes is really going to augment what it is that he does. I look back to 22 and 23 with McDonald, and how virtually down the line we had guys with their best season, or really stepping up compared to other years. Even Matabike, But I think the safety position is really of interest to me primarily because he asked his safeties to do a lot that we don't all the time typically see. Because we have three versatile safeties, be interesting to see how the new addition from the Colts is used. But I'm most interested, I think, to watch that, how those three safeties get rotated around, what he asks them to do game to game.
And it's not just game to game, it's play to play. I mean, they're doing one thing on 2nd and 10 and something completely different on 3rd and 6. The defense, I think, takes on its own form or forms, plural, on 3rd down. It looks radically different, obviously, for most NFL teams, but I think you see a really large difference in the structure, almost a different mentality completely on 3rd down with Minter. Most of the things I think we both enjoy and we both like. A few we've had some questions about. I don't know that we're necessarily going to get into that here during the course of this video. You asked me this question before we were prepping, so I'm going to turn it around and flip it on you. Do you think that there is superior or equal talent in Baltimore on the defensive side to what he had to at his disposal, with the Chargers, specifically last year, 25 to 26 comparison, I guess.
Yeah. I think it remains to be seen in terms of the pass rush. You would think on paper we at least measure up, you know. I would say last year's pass rush obviously did not measure up. Um, I think we do have a better collection of players in general. I like what they had up front. Um, I like what we have up front now with the guys we added in terms of the D line. I think overall we're a better personnel. What do you think?
The only caveat or question for me is how much he asks of the will linebacker as far as coverage, and then what are we going to be able to get out of those two guys? Because we would presume that at some point Buchanan comes back and he gets some snaps. I just don't think Buchanan can do some of the things that he asks Henley to do in coverage. I just don't think he can be that versatile. I think the coverage umbrella might look different with Simpson on the field versus Buchanan, and that's not a bad thing. Each of those guys has individual strengths. Of the two, the guy who I think has the athleticism and the experience in coverage to recreate what they did with Henley is obviously Simpson. From a coverage standpoint, covering the running back into the boundary, some of the reads that we'll talk about over the course of this video. That's the spot that I think looks different. Henley, a very unique player, in my opinion, in their base defensive structure, played will linebacker into the boundary. So that's a particular spot in Minter's defense from a coverage standpoint. And we'll explain that maybe a little bit better here as we get the film going in a moment. But in a dime configuration, Henley moves over to the Mike. And we don't have that's not going to happen with us. Roquan would be the Mike on dime situations. And in addition, Roquan's got the intelligence in the background and the depth of experience to do the things that Henley could do, the reads from a snap by snap basis. That spot is going to be, for me, the position I'm looking forward to seeing how it's adjusted. And then who is being asked to be so multiple there? Do I think we have better talent? My brain wants to say yes, but your first answer is a pretty good one. It remains to be seen. The safeties and the corners being multiple and matching routes, I think is going to be extremely important. I do love the way that Minter mitigates talent on the other side. And I think your first play is going to kind of show that. Might be a good way to segue into that. It was going to be with the empty against the Bengals. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And when I say mitigates talent, I mean limits the other team's best players as a primary read.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but is that something maybe we don't see as much the last couple of years in Baltimore, where there's a specific game plan to stop a particular weapon player?
In my opinion, even dating back to McDonald, I felt like McDonald kind of called his coverages and we ran them. This appears to be a little bit more specific to the talent we're facing, but also where it's lined up. Correct me if I'm wrong here. We've got Chase and is it Higgins down at the bottom?
I believe so. Chase is Chase right here at the top.
Yeah, you should be able to draw on screen if you hit the little squiggly line button in the middle. Then you should be able to there you. So I guess my answer to your question would be I think that even dating back a couple of years, we were just we're going to call it and we're going to run it. This seems a little bit more position specific for where the best players are.
Yeah, he's going to get sort of a double bracket going here on the inside receivers. So to the top of our screen, this is Jamar Chase right here. You can see the safeties kind of floating down right away to get on top of that. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just run it slow. But watch the safeties come down here. I believe that's Higgins to this side that they're bracketing. And there's two different coverages really. Like there's a distinction. I don't know how fine point we want to get about it, but there's one called switch where the underneath player plays from an inside leverage standpoint, and this is the opposite of that. So some people kind of use this term bracket kind of in a universal sense. There are some distinctions between them based
Great
on
point.
leverages. Um, so yeah, we'll see them instantly, and you almost get kind of a cover zero effect here in a way,
Right.
because of the safety help. And but I do think, to your point, what you see is a real fine attention and also a study ahead of time.
Yeah.
Here's where he's going to
Preparedness.
go. Here's where he's going to go, and here's what we're going to take away. Um, you see, Chase, you mentioned he kind of does this out or this pivot or this whip. I don't know if he's doing that as a script or if he's kind of reading the quarterback coming out
Yeah.
because
Look at the guy defending him. Almost heads directly to the sideline, right?
right gets
And
underneath it.
Chase, we didn't know where this was in terms of second quarter, third quarter, whatever. But it almost looks like to me Chase has taken that some people call it whip, China out, whatever return. He's almost taken it more towards like the flag or a corner,
Hmm.
and the guy covering him is undercutting. But fortunately, the pressure is there, and I think that's the point. Is that Minter's structure is going to be prepared to interrupt or disrupt what you want to do. Well, that's just common sense, right? From a defensive standpoint.
I,
To be
I
real, go ahead, Coach.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think one of the fine points that I think both of us were talking about pre-show was how he uses these safeties, and he's not afraid to put them in different kind of roles that you might anticipate. He's not just getting over top of something; he's really taking something away. Go ahead, Coach. I cut you off. What were you going to say?
I liken it to if Minter was a college football coach, he would be recruiting eventually the highest level safeties with NFL aspirations would be funneled into his program because it's a place where you can show off your tackling skills in open field. It's a place where you can show off occasionally your your blitz ability, but also what you do in coverage across a wide umbrella of coverages. He really, I think, highlights the safety group very well. We thought the Ravens staff, thought that bringing Gilman over would amplify our defense somewhat in 2025 when we traded him for Owe. And he had his moments, right? He had some really good. I mean, obviously the pick six against the Bengals, he played a fantastic game that day, the 24-0 win. I think from a safety standpoint, as far as talent goes, we've got equal or superior talent in a first-round pick in Malachi Starks, a first-round pick in Kyle Hamilton, all-pro capability. I really like Hawkins. I think he's underrated. I'm a huge Tony Jefferson fan, and I've done many videos about Tony Jefferson on my channel. So you're not going to catch me making comparisons between Tony Jefferson and one of our guys if you can pick up on what I'm saying. I would like him. I would like him on any team that I was rooting for. But I think that we're really good there from a safety standpoint in Baltimore. Can you let it run a little bit here and
Sure.
so people can see what we're talking about? You can let it run full speed and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So from here, he's made that in cut almost looking like a drag, or maybe he's going to take a drag and then shoot it up the middle of the field. We think that this is possibly later in the game, and he's adjusting it to the coverage, right? The Bengals are recognizing that it's going to be a bracket of some sort, and that they're adjusting it. It's really cool, if you ask me, that you picked this one out because it's Bengals specific. We're going to see them twice, obviously, each year.
Yep. And a lot of the stuff I'm showing is Bengals related, but he asks, obviously he's asking everybody else to cover, in terms of man, right? When he's got these two safeties coming downhill, they're not going to have the help that they would have on the outside. Zero is Henley. Is that right?
Yeah. To your point, and he's up top playing man over number one. So, when we face the Bengals, they'll try to do that. See what we get, what we give them. Did we give them Roquan out there? Did we give them Buchanan out there? Did we give them Simpson out there? And you can see the trust that he's got, or the expectation level, that Minter has. You're out there. We're going to play bracket on Chase, number two. You're totally man-to-man there. You got no help on a vertical at all. So obviously, a 5-yard stop or a comeback route, we could possibly give that up on the outside to the running back because we've got no help. We've got to be a little bit more conscious of a deeper route. That's a great first play to pick, man.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think something I'd love to get into, you and I to get into more, is like what's going on up front. Really there's stuff going on up front in terms of these pressure, how he pressures the quarterback and what he asks the edge guys to do and stuff. I haven't watched it as close as I would have liked, but it all works together.
I think each week, once we get the film on Mondays and stuff, by Wednesday morning, we could certainly pick out our favorite stunt or stunts from the week that were successful or maybe that weren't. That's a great idea for a segment. All right, mine is going to play off of something that my first one is going to be play off of something that you and I talked about a lot pre-show, but also here in the lead up. And this idea of the linebacker. It's a dime look, so I can say the linebacker because Derwin James is down here lined up over the bunch. And again, what's asked of Derwin James and Kyle Hamilton is significant in this defensive structure, but we think that the safety that was highlighted and Henley are both reading that running back. So this release here, at times they're both reading that running back, not in every single coverage. So since he's flaring to the right-hand side of the offense or the bottom side of our screen, he's going to be taken over by the safety. And I think one of the advantages of this is you get this kind of multiplier effect with the remaining linebacker, probably Roquan in our dime package. That would be my guess. We get Simpson and or Buchanan off the field. But here I think he's looking at the running back initially. He's certainly got his field of vision between the running back and the quarterback because you can see that once he gets off of the running back, he jumps exactly where Jaden Daniels was looking immediately post-snap. So we're talking about him moving in this direction to possibly match the running back, depending on the running back's release. If the running back had gone out here, we think that Henley would take the running back, and then this safety would possibly help out with the bunch to some degree. It could almost kind of end up looking like two-man. Is that your understanding of how this works sometimes?
Yeah, it's interesting. Another layer into how he uses his safeties, how he asks them to perform. And what we're going to see at the end of this is this guy's got to come downhill a long way to make this open. He's on his own here making this tackle. So he's asking a significant task here. It's interesting how, okay, so plus there's quick decision making on the fly.
Yes.
You can see that. And if the back had stayed in, let's say he stays in or delays his release, you're probably asking the linebacker to hang out. And then the safety, it'd be interesting what the safety's responsibility is in this bunch, whether he's kind of splitting the middle of the field there, on the back end, or they want him on the seam, or how that works. Be interesting. So it's definitely an if this then that moment for both of those players.
100%.
Yeah.
And they do really, sorry, Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. Of course, that happens every day in every NFL game where that happens. But there's variables in play here that each of these two players in particular are considering.
100%.
And they have to quickly.
And I think you mentioned or talked about them playing a lot of man to bunch. Sometimes it's match-ish. They're matching the routes. But one thing, regardless of whether it's straight man, which I think this is actually this particular instance, they do a real nice job of not running into each other, staggering or layering how they match things, depending on the routes. I haven't seen them collide and get picked yet. Have you?
No, that's a very good point because both of us talked about this week. The idea that, I managed to find one play where they didn't, where they kind of played first man in, first man out, you take this guy. But most of the time they're playing man, and you would think that would make them very susceptible to any kind of rubs or running into each other. And so you made an interesting point about how they're staggered pre-snap has something to do with, because they're really specific to a man here, and you have to take that man. So Yeah, it's interesting how he's got them aligned here. That has to have something to do with it.
To some degree, what happens up front here can be very Seattle-esque or McDonald-esque. Now, I forget the guy's name from Match Quarters. He consistently refers to it as a Baltimore or a Ravens defense. And Seahawks fans, it gets on their nerves, I think, because he's talking about McDonald, who is now obviously the head coach, Super Bowl winning head coach in Seattle, but he's using the phrase Baltimore or Ravens defense. So I think that's the reason why. Maybe he's dialed back that usage of that phrase. I don't know, but he does a great job, and I don't think he meant it in a disrespectful way at all. But I think the coverage being so specific, I think ties in with this with the guys up front because they're kind of almost let go. It's very stratified. Okay, you're going to rush the passer, we're going to cover, which is common sense. But too often I feel like we got into, especially last year, it showed up. We got into not attacking the quarterback, not letting those guys be mentally freed up to go ahead and go after the quarterback in a way that actually pressures him. Athletic quarterback back there, Jaden Daniels. I don't think he had been injured yet at this point in the season, but I could be wrong about that play that I just showed. But the point for me is that they were attacking him. Sometimes they were spying. Henley was the guy that was a spy occasionally, but they were coming after him to try to get pressure. And I think, we obviously need more of that. Your second one is what, play 9 down in the red zone?
Yes.
And again, we think there's some awareness of Chase here, right?
Yeah. Interestingly, I thought throughout this game, they sort of overdo the attention to detail as it regards him and Higgins to an extent. To me, they're playing two read here. That's what they're doing on him. So I found that a little daring, let's say, down there in the red zone in particular. I think it's a difficult coverage down there. But I love, again, we're talking in large measure, I think, about how he asks players to do things that might be just a little out of the norm. And we see that with Henley here, right? This is Henley. Let's see, can draw on there. Yeah, right there. And the thing that's out of the norm to me, a little bit, is that he doesn't just typically in like two read, we're gonna ride that turn right around, read the quarterback, but he has a feel for that route. You can see right here, he's going to kind of bend and run with Chase underneath. So typically, if you want to call this two read, which I'm calling it, but typically he's going to read the quarterback, play the hook, that kind of thing here. This may be very specific to the red zone, but I do notice this a lot. Very deep drops that he asks the linebackers to take, and really to play a lot more of that underneath, playing the inside, breaking routes. I do like the way the safety plays this too. He's very attentive to Chase. The ball goes up, and watch him break on the number one. As Chase goes underneath or breaks inside, he's going to break this pass.
Yeah, back to one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's commonly seen that, can you pull it back to right about there?
Yep.
That's commonly seen that 2 would kind of occupy that safety with his route. But here you've also got the added element of the gravity of Chase. Perhaps the Bengals are hoping that, it pulls that safety another step or another yard and a half, if you will, and then now opens that window. Is that Chase and Higgins stacked together up there?
They are. Higgins is 5, correct?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So oftentimes you see them separate those two, the Bengals. Here they put them together, maybe, again, similar to that whip route or China out that Chase kind of modified and took it a little bit more took it a little bit more at a 45 degree as opposed to the sideline. I wonder if this is an adjustment by the Bengals to the amount of attention that the Chargers defense is paying. But I think it goes to the calls that are available to the defense when they get this alignment. They're different if you don't have a receiver the caliber of Chase as number 2 or the slot, the inside guy. So I think it goes back to what we talked about in the lead up a little bit, is the preparation of the defense for the specific threats that we're going to see. Very interesting to me what this defense does against the Bengals. when McDonald was here, look at the numbers for Burrow. Held him down, yards per completion really low, even the games when the completion percentage was high. And then once McDonald left, things returned to normal for Burrow and Chase.
Yeah.
I mean, 2024, we beat them, but twice, I think it was 35-34 and 41-38. They're both shootouts, right?
Yeah, that's right. I do think it's interesting too. You can see in the orange that I guess this is a linebacker we have here. A lot of times, and obviously he's reading our running back in the backfield. He's going to stay in and kind of chip or block the edge here. But a lot of times you'll have a coach ask the the linebacker to come downhill a little bit more, right? I think he asks these guys to make difficult tackles at times, or put themselves in position to have to make a difficult tackle in order to cover.
You're talking about leaving more space. You're talking about leaving more space, basically.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit unusual. You end up with kind of 4 over 2 here, and that's not, he's really just playing kind of that hook to that side, but he's clearly reading the quarterback. If let's say the back release is late, I think he's the guy, right? Obviously he's reading the running back. That's his guy, but I think if that back leaks out, he's got to come again off of this coverage that he's playing, reading the quarterback, and find.
Is that Perryman? Is that 6?
6. Yeah, that's 6.
That's Denzel Perryman, veteran.
Okay.
He had been with the Texans. I think he was with the Raiders. We faced him in 2021. He was with the Raiders. Good player. Actually, I thought he played kind of well for them. Here he's the Mike. So even the Mike position, the coverage reactions post snap are going to be. It's going to be extensive. What you're expected to do. I think this is. Football is obviously a very physical game. Even the way it's played now at the NFL level, so much spread stuff and the passing game being accentuated. It's a thinking man's game from a Jesse Minter perspective as far as what his players are asked to do. I think that dynamic is very similar to Mike McDonald.
Oh yeah, no question. I also think, and there's a lot to look at in terms of what he asked these guys to do. There's really no hesitation in kind of doubling up on this route here. It's the route to that side. You see effectively two doubled receivers here on this side.
On the inside,
which is a little bit unusual, I think. But there's no hesitation in what each of these defenders are doing. Well, this is the guy in my area. We're not going to let him catch the football. Really very difficult. But to your point, I think this is a difficult cover to the side. It's clearly intentional to kind of bend Chase in and try to draw the safety down and then hit this in the end zone. That's really what they want here, and they play it really well.
If you gave the Chargers or any defense and said these are the routes that are going to be run on this particular play, I'm not sure that they could have covered it any better.
Yeah, right.
And that, to me, speaks to the preparedness for the formation and the plays or the routes that emanate from that formation. That's why I'm huge on formations. Always have been.
Point. Yep. Excellent point.
And we would say, this was taught to me by some guys that were way better football coaches than I'll ever be. You want to know the answers to the test. Mm-hmm. And then you just fill in C because you know the answers already. That's what this looks like to me. That's what this particular play looks like to me, is that they know the answers to the test.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point because clearly the safety that's eyeballing Chase also has in the back of his mind, well, if this dude bends in, they're going to try to hit Higgins.
That's right.
Yep.
Can you go back to that point where I think the linebacker Perryman ends up on the hash? Yeah, just let it run a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Right there. So you've got down here at the bottom, I think that's a tight end, maybe Gesicki. Mm-hmm. His feet are down here on like the 3. You could essentially say, probably with these advanced stats nowadays and so many non-football people putting out information, you'd say he's being doubled. Gesicki.
Right.
Even though he's not, it's just a read. Those guys are just matching routes. Chase up there. Chase is being doubled. That's what so many people would say. The route that's down there on like the 11-yard line. Maybe that's Yoshivas or whatever. I'm not sure. He's being doubled because he's got two players within 5 yards of him. However the heck they determine those things, I really don't care because I don't listen to those people in the first place. But point is, the way that they've played it, the way they've matched the routes, has given Burrow no real high percentage opportunity. He takes the, quote, best opportunity he's got, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way the safety plays that. He knows he's watching Chase for sure, but he's also reading the quarterback and getting underneath this thing.
Great. That's a great play. The first two plays you picked are spectacular. If you ask me, to talk about the awareness specific to dealing with Jamar Chase and the Bengals, the threat that they are. So awesome job there. Probably clip that one up and run that one as a solo, or you can put it on your channel if you want.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. The next one I've got is a third down again against Washington. Does involve some motion. So short motion, top to bottom. Can I make that a little bigger? Let's see how that works. And sometimes I like to do this. I think I'm going to do this often in 2026 for our defense, but Seattle as well, between the two safeties and the nickel. So where are they lined up? I want to try to accentuate or focus on that. And we anticipate being in a nickel structure a lot. So I'm just trying to illustrate how they are lined up. And here you've got Derwin James obviously looking like he's playing man because he's matching the motion by the tight end. It ends up being that kind of bunch that we talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this as well, often switch between the all-22 and the end zone for a couple of reasons, to talk about the stunt and or talk about where the quarterback looks, how quickly the quarterback's eyes go from one place to the other. So a lot of times the quarterbacks are taught to, catch the ball and look in one direction, but then quickly get their eyes somewhere else because their read is effectively not there. But you can see Jaden Daniels looks to his right, our left on the screen, which is where the bunch is, where Derwin James was, and then comes back to the other side of the field. Henley, to me, here looks like a spy on Jaden Daniels. This is somewhat similar to what we just saw, and we didn't plan it this way. Going back to the all-22, obviously, from the same play. The routes, the way they work out, the point man might be McCaffrey, ends up being the target. He's the Higgins here, conceptually, to go back to your play. Kind of like the deeper route that after the safety's been pulled or occupied, you do have more space here between, I think that's Tony Jefferson. You have more space between Jefferson and that route than occurred between your safety and Chase. But what I'm saying is, similar in cut here and then later developing route here. So almost kind of like this idea that we're going to force you to make the longer throw consistently that would hopefully be less, have less of a chance to being completed. Does that make sense the way I explained it? Still a four-man rush, but now the difference is I think you've got a dedicated spy in the form of Henley here. And the running back release, which I didn't talk about here at all, is to the boundary. And that's going to be, once again, taken over by, there's your safety. I think you call it fiddle, right?
Uh-huh. Or, yeah, this is a one funnel, maybe. I would call it where the safety, the weak safety comes down and plays the back.
Yep. So what we're saying, guys, is man all here, a spy by Henley, and then the weak side or boundary side safety coming down to play the running back on the release to the flats. Is that what you mean?
Yes. And would Henley chase if the back went opposite?
Right. And then exactly. And that's what we're willing to admit that we don't know, but the possibility exists. It's there. It's there in the playbook for MINTER'S. So you've got all of these different things that the defense can do. Here it ends up being a incomplete pass up to the top. I'm not sure who that corner is there. It might be I think it's Saint Just, who used to play for Washington. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but they use a lot of guys at corner in Minter's defense. He uses a lot of guys, seems to trust everyone that gets on the field. I love the fact that they're forcing quarterbacks in your look, the one you just showed, and this one. They're forcing quarterbacks to make the longer throw to the outside, not giving them free stuff over the middle, but still dealing with the possibility of an athletic quarterback scrambling. And Henley's going to show up a lot in this video, what we're talking about, because he's asked to do so many things, and he quite frankly does them all well.
Yeah, great coverage in terms of the man responsibilities too. If you look around,
Yep.
everybody's
you see
locked.
You see the staggered nature of those guys covering.
Oh, that's cool. How the inside guy ends up covered.
Yep.
And to your point, they don't bang into each other.
You can even see this guy's helmet turn to look briefly. Hopefully that's smooth for you guys on your end watching. We pre-recorded this, but the idea is that we're trying not to spend time editing it too much, which is part of the reason why there's so much annotations on the screen. So if you don't know that game, my apologies. But the idea is that we don't have to spend time after we've recorded this editing it, so it's good to go as far as YouTube goes. Did you have one more from the same game, the Bengals game?
Yeah, it's just a look at the bunch formation, and in this one they do play. I don't know if you want to call it like a traffic call. There's probably a better name for it, but where we're asking, we see at the top of our screen here that same kind of rack look from the offense. These guys are reading. Derwin James is definitely man on the tight end. The other two are reading first in, first out. You can see that off the ball. So just a distinction, not strict man in how they play this bunch. The way that you and I were talking, most of the time they're playing strict man out of this. But this is clearly these two players here reading the in and the out, and then responding.
Back is chipping again, and kind of runs into I think it's 45. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he had like 13 sacks last year. They lined 45 up a lot. Once they got Owe, they lined him up on the inside a lot in pass rush situations. So I want to alert or at least make people aware of the possibility that one of our edge rushers could be used as an interior rusher on third down obvious passing situations, because that's what they did with 45 a ton once Owe got there.
Yeah, just something to look for, I think, just how these guys play bunches. We're seeing a lot of man responsibilities. This, I guess we'll call this two-man, or turning into like a two-man coverage, which is, I think, one of my favorites. I like that coverage a lot.
Yeah, maybe you don't use that against a Jaden Daniels, right?
Right?
Maybe you don't use that against some of the more. Not that Burrow didn't have escapability before his most recent injury. He was sneaky quick, man. I mean, Burrow was a slippery guy. Maybe he's a little different now. Maybe they want him scrambling less. You were surprised by how much man we saw to bunch, and I think I was too, right?
Yeah. Yep. I'm surprised generally how much man coverage I'm seeing as I watch. And that, you got to get home. And I think that's something to watch for sure. Can we get to the quarterback? Can we pressure the quarterback? Hope so. Much more than last year.
Yeah, tremendous fall off. I mean, that was tremendous fall off. Obviously, part of it was not having Matabike. We didn't get production from Van Noy, not consistent, as far as getting to the quarterback. So that was a huge factor, in some of those completions where the guys had to cover longer on the back end. That dedicated four-man rush, I think, will be a huge tipping point for this team in 2026. If we're able to rely on that dedicated four-man rush, whatever it is, various stunts or just straight, pass rushes in your lane. If we're able to do that, then that helps out those guys on the back end tremendously. Number one, I think it also gives those DBs confidence, knowing I don't have to cover for an elongated amount of time because I know the quarterback's going to be pressured to some degree.
Mm-hmm. I think the rotation and the depth of guys, like you mentioned earlier, will be interesting, fun to watch.
How does this one finish out?
I think we get an incompletion outside. Oh, no, shot.
Another one that's a longer attempt, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting too. You see a lot of trips, kind of sets where you would expect something on the backside poaching. You know what I mean? We saw that a lot
Yep.
last year, but I don't see it. I don't see it a ton. He's just asking. In this instance, we're talking about like how the safeties are asked to do different stuff. In this instance, he's just saying, "Hey, play. Play your half of the field."
It's man, dime. Excuse me, it's dime. So you've got that extra cover guy out there. I think we're probably going to have a couple different versions of dime. We may have a version of dime where Hamilton is still, asked to move to the field, and we're using Simpson as a dime line. Basically the coverage called will be a dime type of coverage, but we'll ask Simpson to do it. Here, if you pull back to the beginning, that will be impossible because we've got a 4-1 structure inside, the 4 pass rushers, and then Henley. Down at the bottom, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Chase, right?
Yes, that's Jamar Chase on the bottom of our screen.
So I think whoever that backside X receiver is probably is a somewhat of a determining factor to what we can play to the front side, meaning we don't want to poach with that boundary side or downside safety because we want to allocate him to help out against Chase.
Right.
So that could trickle up, to what we play to the top side. All interesting stuff, if you ask me, things that I don't know that we got to in the last couple of years under Orr. I mean, 2024 was better than 25, which was just really, really awful. But 24 started out bad too. I do want to show one play that, all this talk of boundary side coverages and the importance of the will linebacker. I think Steichen is going to present a very unique challenge in that he has coached against this defensive structure enough for me to be able to quite confidently say he knows how to attack it. Whether it's successful or not, I don't know. And where he's going to attack is going to be to the boundary. I'll do a standalone video on comprised of multiple games. It'll be the Colts against the Chargers last year, the Colts against the Dolphins last year, which was week 1, Weaver's first game last season in Miami, but also the Colts against the Seahawks last year and the Colts against our defense in 2023 when McDonald was still here. I think you see some remarkable similarities in how he attacks them, and this play illustrates it for me. So it's a nickel structure against 12 personnel. And again, we're talking about film last year of the Chargers. There's your 2 tight ends, one of which is Warren. A big matchup in that week 1 game, I think, is going to be Warren against our will linebackers, whoever it is. Whether it's 12 personnel or 11, that's going to be a huge determining factor because he's going to go to Warren a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're rotating the safeties down to the 2 tight end side. And I love what the Colts do here as far as it's a throwback screen into the boundary, but I love how they're getting this accomplished. First of all, the 2 tight ends are doubling the edge defender to ensure that Daniel Jones, the quarterback, has time to make this throw, all right? In addition, they know that against 12 personnel, they're probably going to get man coverage into the boundary, and that's what you've got here. So effectively, Pierce is just running off the corner, all right? Briefly from the end zone angle, you're going to see the running back flow to the boundary. Just another layer of it that I'm trying to accentuate, which is these 2 tight ends doubling the edge defender 45, ensuring that Jones has time to get this throw off. And so because it's a too high structure, one of these guys is actually a linebacker. It's Perryman here. Because it's a too high structure, there's just nobody else there. There is nobody else here other than the will linebacker, Henley, who you can see has got 3 blockers leading up to him. I think he did get some recognition of the play from Perryman and one of the defensive linemen, if not 2. But to me, this is a brilliant play call against the structure that Minter and McDonald offer, which relies on man coverage into the boundary, running off that boundary side corner. Here is Pierce, who's a constant threat on deep balls, right? Because they're rotating one safety down, I would say this is cover 3 to the field. There's your 2 hook defenders and your curl flat defender. The only problem with calling it cover 3 is the way that this corner up top orients himself. It could be 3 match up there with that guy, so he could be orienting to play man, because you can see he doesn't really take a zone turn. I'm talking about this corner right here. It's the same guy who the previous play before this had just given up like a 48-yard catch to Pierce in cover 3. But it's a really well-designed play to Jonathan Taylor into the boundary. Throwback screen. The only reason I bring it up at the end is not to destroy the flow or destroy our praise of what Minter runs, is to say that the week 1 game, don't put that in your books as a guaranteed win, because Steichen knows what he's doing attacking this defense, and he will go over here into the boundary all game if he's successful with the play calls he's set up. And it happened in this game against the Chargers in 25. He really took the Chargers defense to the woodshed, especially early, right?
Yeah, 38 points, 400 yards, no turnovers, or at least by the quarterback. Taylor played well. I think he had 100, maybe 98-ish yards. But yeah, they whooped the defense. It's not a good thing for me to put out there that he got out coached or anything like that. I really don't like hearing myself even say that. You know what I mean? But yeah, they got beat bad. And week 1, that's a challenge. They have some pieces on defense too, right? With
Yep.
the young offensive line, they've got some guys that can get after the quarterback.
Yep.
So,
I like how Steichen attacks this defense. He did a really nice job with Phillip Rivers. When Phillip Rivers came out of retirement to go play last year on 3 days' notice, attacking the Seahawks defense in a very conservative way, obviously. I think they lost 18-16 or 18-14, something like that. But Steichen knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do. I think there's some times where the coverage to the field, and certainly this play that I presented is not confusing, right? It's a design throwback screen, so the coverage to the field doesn't matter. But from a Steichen or play caller standpoint, because I recognize that he has another guy who could call plays, I feel like want to avoid the field side coverage altogether at times because they don't know what it's going to be. We know what the boundary side coverage is going to be, so we'll attack there. That's a simplistic synopsis, if you will, of what I'm seeing. But I enjoyed trying to study how Steichen attacks this defensive structure, and I intend to have a pretty big video out on it that focuses on Steichen attacking Minter's defense, McDonald's defense, and even our own defense last year in the preseason. Recall that we played them, I think week 1 or 2 of the preseason last year.
Yeah, Colts are going to be tough, especially there, opening up there. They're pretty sure when they took it to the Chargers, it was on the road. So they were in L.A. for that game. So we'll be at home for this one, and a home opener. It's going to be a tough one.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this video. It's our first iteration of Inside the Coverage this year for 2026. We'd like to do this every week as much as possible on Wednesday mornings and try to get that piece of content out sometime during the morning for you guys. It will show plays like we just did and talk about the coverages, the patterns that we saw, hopefully have some data to provide as well. By Wednesday morning, I hope to have at least the first half, if not the whole game, charted out for our defense. Being as this is the first year under Minter, I know Weaver is the DC, at least for this season. Weaver, to me, looks like a guy who could move on to be a head coach like a year from now, less than a year from now.
Mhm.
But we would like to have as much of this charted as possible to present on Wednesday mornings during Inside the Coverage. I know there's other websites and things out there that are reputable that provide coverage data. I think there's too much variation within coverage to just say that, like that last play was cover three. Yes, it was cover three to the field, but it's man into the boundary. So that, I don't call that a split field. I call that a combo or a mixed coverage where you've got zone to the field and man into the boundary. I don't consider that a split field coverage, nor would I just solely classify it as cover three, which a lot of people do. Forgive the whole, rant here at the end. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm gonna rely on my data in order to present it during this weekly session.
Yeah, I like what we're getting into. I mean, I'm sure there's other sites around the world that do this, but I really look forward to breaking this stuff down, trying as best we can to identify each player's role, what to call the coverage. Again, as best we can. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm really happy about it.
And I love the fact that you know so much of the split field terminology because my brain doesn't immediately look there. The first thing my brain looks for from a coverage standpoint is, am I getting zone to the field and man to the boundary? Because if so, then that generally limits what you're playing to the field. You seem to be quick to identify, stubby, fiddle, palms, I think you called it two read, whatever. So that's great for me that I can rely on that because there'll be times as far as the split field coverage goes, and no one, to my knowledge, puts out that information or talk from a data standpoint what the split field calls actually are. Match Quarters will do videos on it and talk about the split field nature of it, and he does a fantastic job. But to my knowledge, no one's putting that data out there. And I think Minter does. You said it that he plays a lot more man than we perceived, but there's still a significant amount of split field calls in there, in my opinion, at least. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, seeing that more. With the typical two high shell thing that he does, or he plays a lot. We're going to see. I would hope, or I would think, or expect more split field stuff, and so that's going to be kind of cool. I think too that the addition of Campbell, man, uh, in terms of stopping the run, particularly, is going to be a big deal when you're playing those two high looks. You have to be able to stop the run. They couldn't. The Chargers could not stop the run versus
Colts.
the Colts. Yeah, so that's a big deal getting him on the field.
Yeah, as far as Campbell goes, I was struck by how dominant he was as a 4-eye last year.
Mhm.
Playing that 4-eye technique against the run, he was, there was, I think it was weeks 1 and 2 of last season. He was quite literally the best player on the field,
Wow.
when he was in that 4-eye alignment and technique. I mean, he was dominant in those situations. So, yeah, super excited that we got him back and, obviously provides us some layering of, or some overlap, I should say, in case Matabike can't go early or can't go at all, as the season progresses. Well, thank you for doing this one with me again, EA. We met at a appropriate time, 8 o'clock, as opposed to super early in the morning like I like. But hope you enjoyed it.
I'm sure you'll get me earlier a couple times. So
Well, if
I
you
think
guys enjoyed it, go ahead, Coach. Sorry.
I blame you because since we started doing these coverages, I've been getting up way early, and I think it's your fault.
Yeah. Well, once it's football season, I'll be doing that too. But it's kind of necessary for me now because my wife and I, our youngest wakes up at 6 a.m. every day, and he is ready to go. He is absolutely ready to go. So there's no amping up or ramping up. It is full speed instantly. So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, man. If you guys as watchers or listeners enjoyed this one, feel free to let us know in the comment section. We do intend to present a little bit more data this year than we did last year. That was mostly my fault that I couldn't get that accomplished. But if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this one, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media as well. Appreciate you guys' time.